A superhero's origin story can tell us a lot about the kind of character they are. It largely informs their values and beliefs that become prominent in some of their most famous story arcs, and gives us a better glimpse at the more human side of these exceptional individuals. But origin stories can be filled with not only highs, but a whole lot of lows. Some heroes' backstories are filled with trauma, terror, and even contribute to some major psychological obstacles that they face each and every day. So today we are counting down some of the more frightening of these stories, specifically pertaining to Earth's mightiest heroes, with our list of the top 10 scary Avengers origin stories. We're looking specifically at the comics for this one, friends. But before we begin, we've got a special message from me in the past about this video's sponsor. Time to time travel. Ooh. But before we begin, we want to give a major shout out for our sponsor of this video, CRI Genetics. CRI Genetics are the people behind the Ancestry DNA test. Their mission is to unlock complex information from your DNA and present it to you in a way that's interesting, useful, and easy to understand. They analyze 642,824 markers on your DNA and then compare them with samples all across the globe to tell you where your DNA comes from, with 90% accuracy. How cool is that? And today, I'm going to show you exactly how you can find out about your ancestry. First time customers get 20% off their DNA kit, so be sure to check them out. You can visit their website in our video description below for more details on how you can get your DNA kit today. So the package comes with a few things. We got 2 vials, a little biohazard baggie, 2 cheek swabs. So what you're going to end up doing is using this to rub the inside of your cheek, and the other one for the other side of your cheek. And then you end up taking this little swab and you put it in the vial. So let's give her a go. Well, number uno. Just like that. Goes back in the box. Seal her up tight and then you ship it off. Now when you do it, make sure that you register at crigenetics.com/register. Now once you complete this step and you ship it off, it'll take about 6 to 8 weeks to get the DNA. So we're gonna time travel a little bit in this video, and make sure you guys stick around to the end for my results, and let's find out who I am. Alright, and we are back. Now let's get to our list. But be sure to stick around to the end of the video to find out what my origins are. In at number 10, Hawkeye. When Hawkeye first appeared in Tales of Suspense issue 57 back in 1964, he was actually a villain of Iron Man's. After a handful of appearances though, he would go on to change his ways and join the Avengers, with pieces of his origin story coming together in following years. After both his parents died in a car accident, Clint and his brother Barney ran away from the orphanage they were sent to, only to join the Carson Carnival of Traveling Wonders. Here, Clint befriended the Swordsman, who, along with Trickshot, trained the young Clint to become a master archer. But when Clint discovered that the Swordsman was actually embezzling money from the carnival, he attempted to turn his mentor over to the police. But instead, Swordsman beat the crap out of him, leaving him for dead. His relationship with his brother and Trickshot went downhill from there too. And at number 9, Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones may be most prominently known for her role in the Defenders, but the character has been on the Avengers team in the past too. Her origin story takes place in New York City, having gone to the same high school as Peter Parker, who she secretly had a crush on. After her family goes on a trip to Disney World and they're driving back home, their car ends up colliding with a military convoy carrying radioactive chemicals. Those are the chemicals that give her her powers. Her family does not survive, and Jessica ends up in a coma for months. After she does come to, she's sent to an orphanage, and later adopted by the Jones family, who re-enroll her at her high school at Midtown High, where she's ostracized by her classmates, except for Peter. And at number 8, Spider-Man. Spider-Man's origin story is a well-known tale. Peter Parker is bitten by a radioactive spider, he gains impressive new abilities, and after his Uncle Ben is murdered, he learns that great power comes with great responsibility. It's tragic, but it's something that has long informed the actions of the web-slinger. While that's the most popular iteration of the tale, there is a key plot point that tends to be forgotten when it comes to Parker. He was molested as a child. Revealed in the 1984 issue 1 of Spider-Man and the Power Pack, we learn that Peter was sexually abused by an adult he trusted, someone he thought was a friend named Skip Westcott. He grooms Peter somewhat, showing him porn magazines, with Skip saying to Peter, "Let's conduct a little experiment of our own. Let's see if we can touch each other like the people in that magazine." Peter, who had saved a child in a similar circumstance in the issue, admits that when he's rehashing the tale that he was too frightened to leave, despite being vocal about not wanting Skip to touch him. Peter later admits when he's swinging through the streets of New York that confronting what happened to him made him realize that he was not responsible for what had happened, which is a pretty big darn deal. And at 7, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. When the Maximoff twins first hit the pages of Marvel Comics, it was 1964 in X-Men issue 4 as members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. They were reluctant villains, but their origin dates back much further than that. Their mother, Magneto's wife Magda, had fled from him when she was pregnant, taking sanctuary at the High Evolutionary. Fearing that her children might be discovered, she flees, leaving them behind. When superhero Miss America gives birth to a stillborn child and dies, the midwife attending her tells the Wizard, Robert Frank, that Miss America gave birth to Wanda and Pietro, although he flees too in grief. The twins are then left in the care of two Romani citizens, Django and Mara Maximoff, who raised them. Their adoptive parents are then killed after Django steals bread to feed the family, and their village is set on fire. Wanda and Pietro flee. Later, when Wanda uses her abilities to save a child, an angry mob hunts the twins down until Magneto rescues them, recruiting them for the Brotherhood. And at number 6, Iron Man. While the MCU has adapted Tony Stark's origin story quite seamlessly into a contemporary context, back in the day, when the character first came out in Tales of Suspense issue 39 back in 1963, he was created as the quintessential capitalist. Tony is the son of a wealthy industrialist who becomes a weapons manufacturer, and ends up getting kidnapped in Vietnam by enemy forces after he's injured by a booby trap, causing shrapnel to get lodged into his chest, slowly moving towards his heart. He ends up working with a fellow prisoner, Ho Yinsen, to create a magnetic chest plate to keep the shrapnel from killing him, along with a suit of powered armor, which Stark then uses to escape. If you know anything about American history, you know that Vietnam was one of the most traumatic events to ever occur in both the US and Vietnamese history, and left both nations struggling with some major PTSD for years to come. While the MCU terrorists are arguably just as scary, there's something about Tony Stark being nearly fatally injured in the jungles of Vietnam that makes his initial origin story quite terrifying when you really think about it. In at 5, Black Widow. Black Widow has another well-known origin story, one that we might even see play out in the MCU in the near future in the character's solo feature. And it's likely that it'll remain just as dark as it is in the comics. Despite debuting in Tales of Suspense issue 52 in 1964, it wasn't until the 70s that we got more information on the character's past. The character of Ivan Petrovich tells Daredevil in the comics that he was given custody of Natasha by a woman who died immediately afterwards during the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942. He raised her, turning her into a Soviet spy. This was later retconned though, showing Natasha being raised in the USSR's Black Widow Ops program, with Ivan taking her to Department X where she was brainwashed and trained in the covert Red Room facility, where she's biotechnologically and psychotechnologically enhanced. She's fed false memories in order to keep her brainwashed, and the KGB even arranged a marriage between her and a Soviet test pilot. He's eventually taken away by the KGB for a new program, and Natasha is told that he's dead. Later, when she tries to defect from the Soviet Union, she ends up getting kidnapped, put back in the Red Room, and brainwashed yet again. But luckily Hawkeye, who at the time she had a romantic relationship with, ends up aiding her and breaking her free from the psychological conditioning, with Natasha later joining the Avengers. In at 4, Sentry. When we first met Sentry in 2000, he was a middle-aged overweight man named Bob Reynolds, who just so happened to remember he's a superhero with the power of 1 million exploding suns, derived from a special serum, although that's been questionably retconned in later years. But despite that one fluid detail, Sentry's first story follows him remembering that he was a hero, and trying to figure out why the rest of the superhero community does not remember that. It's soon revealed that Sentry had voluntarily erased his own memories, working with Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange, and a mechanical robot named Quark in order to make everyone forget. All thanks to Sentry's other more sinister half, Void, a villain of mass power who threatened the Earth, and is one and the same as Sentry. Also, side note, he struggles heavily with addiction to boot. Imagine that, sacrificing your entire memory, your entire life, and making everyone forget who you are, all just to stop the evil that brews within you and threatens to kill all life on Earth. Yeah, that's some terrifying existential stuff right there. And at number 3, the Hulk. We all know that Bruce Banner became the Hulk thanks to being exposed to a gamma bomb, causing him to be affected by gamma radiation. But his origins do go beyond that, especially as far as his rage is concerned. We learned in issue 312 of The Incredible Hulk from 1985 that Bruce was the victim of child abuse. His father was a violent alcoholic who beat him and murdered Bruce's mother, accidentally, but still, murder is murder. In addition to that, his father hated him for his intelligence and would lash out at him irrationally. Then in college, Bruce would get violent back, beating up his father over his mother's grave. So the fact that he becomes the Hulk, someone with uncontrollable anger, thanks to the gamma radiation accident, shouldn't be much of a surprise. The Hulk was always inside of him, but now manifests as his big green other half. And at number 2, Carol Danvers. Carol Danvers has been through some major crap, And she's had multiple origin stories of sorts too. One for becoming Miss Marvel, one when becoming binary, and another prior to when she became Captain Marvel, although the latter two kind of bleed into one another. So when Carol was Miss Marvel and part of the Avengers, there was a storyline in which Marcus, the son of Immortus, a major Avengers villain, shows up and kidnaps Carol, takes her back to his dimension, brainwashes her, rapes her, impregnates her, and then uses her pregnancy for her to give birth to him so he can return to Earth in a physical form. Yeah, that's messed. He grows from child to full man in a matter of moments, then kidnaps Carol again, all of which none of the Avengers bat an eye over. This is not something that went over well with fans, critics, or Carol herself. After some aid from the X-Men and Professor Xavier, Carol comes back and gives the Avengers hell for abandoning her in her time of need. She later becomes binary, where she gets a major cosmic power boost, but later, thanks to more traumatic stuff between her and Rogue, with Rogue absorbing her entire personality, she ditches the X-Men and binary. Eventually, she takes on the Captain Marvel mantle and ends up struggling with alcoholism, something that Tony Stark helps her out of since he once was a past alcoholic himself. All in all, she's gone through quite the journey to become the woman she is today. You can also see why the MCU decided to leave out that rather traumatic Marcus storyline out of the Captain Marvel movie too. And finally, in at number 1, Yellow Jacket. Hank Pym is another character with various different origin stories for his various different personas. It's also worth noting that he struggled with major mental health issues over the years, some of which weren't developed the most empathetically by some writers. Now at the time when Hank's Yellow Jacket persona is revealed, Hank had just created Ultron, and had already had 2 nervous breakdowns in the comics. The most recent being because he realized he was the one responsible for creating one of the Avengers' most deadliest foes. Out of that second nervous breakdown, Yellow Jacket is born, a bombastic, prideful superhero of sorts who claims to have killed Hank Pym, and then kidnaps Janet, to whom he proposes to. Janet, slightly delusional, sees this as a way of getting over Hank, and as a chance to finally be happy. Ouch. Hank eventually reveals that he's Yellow Jacket, and that Yellow Jacket was created thanks to a schizophrenic break of Hank's, along with accidentally spilling some untested chemicals. Hank's problems only get worse from there. But that is a story for a whole other video. Alright, there we have it friends. Which of these origin stories did you not know? Which of these do you think is the scariest? And are there other Marvel origin stories you think could have been on this list? Give us a shout in those comments below. But speaking of origins, now it's time to see what my origins are. Cause we in the future now. Alright, so thanks to Out Crigenetics, this is my breakdown. Now for context, up until this point, I've been living under the assumption that I am half Irish, half Italian, and also full-heartedly Canadian, but you know, that's not gonna show up on my genetics test there, is it? So, turns out, I am 63.9% Northern European, which can consist of multiple things like being from Finland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Russia, Estonia, Latvia, and Ukraine. So I actually do know that my grandfather on my mom's side was from Sweden, so that's pretty neat and accurate. Then 15.6% from the British Isles, 11.2% Iberian, I did know that, not the percentage though, 10.2% Northwest European, and only 9.9% Tuscany Italian. But here's where it gets more interesting. Turns out I am 20.8% Peruvian, which is something I did not know. So thanks parents for lying to me. In addition to that, I've also got 5.2% South Asian in my genetics, 2.4% East Asian, and 0.4% African, so my family's got some splaining to do as to what's been going on in the past. But, you know, jokes aside, it's really interesting to see what your genetic makeup is and where potentially all of your ancestors come from and what parts of the countries ended up mingling. And anywho, I learned a lot about myself. And you know, now I'm just gonna get my mom to also do the test and see what she gets too. Be sure to check out Out Crigenetics website and use our tracking code in the video description below. This promo is on now, so make sure you head on over there ASAP. First time customers get 20% off their DNA kit. It's a promo that's going on right now, so be sure to head on over there right after this video and get yours today. In the meantime though, if you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching friends, I'll catch you in the next one.